And so the first one is your boy, Eryk Anders, man. One of my favorite fighters to watch is facing off against one of my other favorite fighters to watch, Darren the Dentist Stewart, man. And I'll tell you what, spoiler alert, this could be a fight of the night. This has fight of the night written all over it, man. And my question for you off the bat, AJ, is that, listen, Eryk Anders, he's been out for about a year. Darren Stewart hasn't quite been a year, but it has been some time for Darren Stewart as well. These fighters know one thing, and that's to walk forward and brawl and bang and clash. And if you saw Kevin Holland versus Darren Stewart's last fight, if this is anything similarly to that, man, this is going to be one of the craziest fights we've seen all year, man. So who are you giving the edge to just off the bat? Before you really got down into the film study, when you just looked at it, you're like, all right, man, who really has the edge in your mind?
Man, when I just looked at it, just name Eryk Anders versus Darren Stewart. This is a hard one for me, man, because like you said, I'm actually a fan of both these fighters. I think no matter how the mix-up goes, man, this is really a pick 'em for me, and me as just a normal fan. This was hard. This is a hard choice. But if I had to give the advantage to either one, I'd probably say Darren Stewart just off of experience factor. That'd be about it, because they're both, man, both very well talented fighters, and they both can easily get a very quick win. You know.
I agree. And let's just talk about like on paper, right? On paper, these are almost clones of each other, dude. So Eryk Anders, 13-5 in MMA, but he's 5-5 in the UFC. Darren Stewart is 12-6 in MMA, but he's 5-5 in the UFC with one no contest, but that don't really count. 8 knockouts for Anders, 1 submission and 4 decisions, right? And for Stewart, 7 knockouts, 1 submission, 4 decisions. So like literally on paper, you're like, this is absolutely a pick 'em. However, in the betting lines, Stewart is the favorite. He's a very clear favorite in this one. And I think the reason why is because first and foremost, man, Eryk Anders, we know the story, and let's just, give context for really quickly. He's not just like a tried and true, started martial arts as a young kid and was doing this his whole life, man. He was a football player. He was an athlete. He's a Greg Hardy type of guy, right? Who came in and has actually had real deal success in the UFC at the highest level, man. But listen, he's been out for about a year partially due to a what he called a retina wrinkle that he suffered in his last fight against Jotko, which basically messed with his depth perception. So he's been out for a year. He got the corrective eye surgery. Now he says his vision is better than 2020. It's like 2025 or something. And now he says with his fight style, this is going to really help him because he's going to be able to, hit that target, do what he needs to do. He likes to walk forward. My question to you in terms of this matchup is that Eryk Anders has generally struggled with fighters who utilize a lot of movement. Now, fortunately for him, Darren Stewart doesn't move that much, but I'll tell you what, he cracks, man. He pops a good punch. Do you think, I don't want to jinx it, so apologies, but do you think this is going to be the Rakic Santos type bout that we just saw last week? Do you think it can lend towards that style?
I'm always hesitant to say no right off the bat, because it's been proven that can happen with any fighter, man. You don't want to get knocked out and you're just feeling off that night. You're going to sit there and stare. But I think the difference with this fighter compared to the Rakic Santos is that both fighters are so well-rounded in all the crafts, both on the feet and on the ground, that even if it does happen, so one of them does happen to get cracked, they think they have an exit route by going to the ground. Whereas Rakic felt a little hesitant to go to Santos's guards. Probably the same thing. They're both they felt more comfortable in one aspect, whereas Eryk Anders versus Stewart, they're a little more game to roll it around, I guess. And I think that comes down to just being in a little bit lighter of a weight class. Instead of the 205, they're in the 185. Packs a little bit less of a punch, especially when you weigh in at 185, but you're fighting at like 210, 220, So they're, man, I really hope this isn't going to be another Eryk Anders versus Darren Stewart. And I don't think so, because I think Stewart has a little bit more in the tank to pull out. Like, he can hit you some submissions like he did against Coconut Bombs, And even in the Kevin Holland fight, he proved he's resilient, man. So I really think they're down to bang it out a little more than the Rakic Santos.
No, I feel it. And that's kind of one of those things, right? That was my thought process on it, is that on the feet, man, this is damn near even. I'd give Darren Stewart a slight edge because he has a real deal chin and that power, man. When he hit Holland just the first time, Holland's like, ooh, okay. You know what I'm saying? We got something going here. I might have to close my mouth just for a little bit, right? But nonetheless, man, I do say that exit strategy is the ground game, man. And Darren Stewart definitely has the edge on the ground. I think he has a very clear advantage, which is why I'm favoring him in this bout. But I want to say Eryk Anders also has something that he could bring to the table that Darren Stewart isn't quite used to. And I already said Stewart could brawl a little bit, right? But Eryk Anders, man, he has this style of he's going to pressure you. He's walking forward the entire fight. That's what he wants to do, right? And like, while that's totally cool, he has this ability to turn it into a true brawl. Darren Stewart will brawl at times. He'll pick his times to brawl with within the match, and then he'll kind of reset and recalibrate and do all that. Eryk Anders, if he could just grind it out throughout the entire fight, I think he could win the fight, man. I think he could win the fight if he keeps it dirty, clinched up. You know, if we saw Kevin Holland was able to put Darren Stewart, have his back against the cage for a big chunk of their fight, man. So, I mean, Eryk Anders is a lot stronger and his wrestling is a lot better. And he says one thing, I just was listening to an interview he did on UFC Unfiltered. He says he's a student of the game and he learned from his mistakes. So if that does happen, man, it'll be very interesting to see. But nonetheless, man, I guess let's give a pick on this. Give me your pick and why.
That's very interesting, Derek. And I never actually really took that into consideration, because I would say Eryk Anders does have the benefit in a dog fight, because Darren Stewart is a little more tactician. But regardless, besides the point, me personally, I'm going Stewart with the decision win, just because I think he's going to outclass him. I don't think it's going to be that dog fight. And even if it does, I think he's going to weather the storm and be able to go through. And I'm going Darren Stewart by decision.
Interesting. So my pick is going to be a little more counterintuitive, but I see two dudes who have never truly been knocked out, right? Darren Stewart's never been knocked out before. Eryk Anders, his only knockout was that TKO loss to Thiago Santos, where the ref just had to stop it because they're like, bro, I can't let you just get beat up anymore. You know what I mean? But that goes to show how tough these guys are. And when Eryk Anders says, you know, when he got asked what's the game plan, you know what I mean? What are you guys going to do? And he says, the way I see it is we're both going to walk forward until somebody falls. And whoever falls first, you know what I mean? Like, that's the loser, right? So when it goes down to that, I'm seeing this ending up in a knockout, and I'm going Darren Stewart just because that right hand is something different, man. And this is an orthodox southpaw matchup too. So I'm going with the right hand and the kicks of Darren Stewart, kind of killing the game, man. Give me a third round knockout, man. Let's hit that, and then you know, that's money, man. So